Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Monday, September 25th, 2023, Monday study session of the Pierce County Council. The time is 11:02 a.m. We have all members present except for Councilmembers Denson, Vice Chair Campbell, and Councilmember Morrell. We do anticipate some of them to be here shortly. Item number 2 is review of the September 26, 2023 council meeting agenda. Ms. Long to brief the council.
Thank you and good morning. This is tomorrow afternoon's regular council meeting agenda. It is amended. We'll start with your consent agenda under C, final action items. For resolutions, you have R 2023-140. This is confirming the appointment of a new member to the Tourism Promotion Area Hotel Commission. Next is R 2023-141, and this is confirming the reappointment of a new member to the Board of Directors of the Economic Development Corporation of Pierce County. And next is R 2023-142, confirming the appointment of a new member to the Pierce County Birth to 25 Advisory Board. And there is one grant, and Mr. Boki will discuss that shortly. And then you'll see under F, another certified budget filed with the council that we just document on your agendas. We'll move now to section 7 under proclamations. And you do have one item tomorrow that's proclaiming the week of October 2nd through the 8th as a week without driving in Pierce County. And that has been requested by Councilmember Hitchen. Moving to section 8 ordinances, you have quite a number of ordinances tomorrow. First step is 2023-33, and this is granting a non-exclusive franchise to Mox Networks LLC for a wireline system in Pierce County. This received a due pass recommendation at EIDC on September 12th. Number 2 is 2023-36. This is adopting a new chapter 2.40 of the code entitled Commission on Equity. That received a due pass recommendation at Health and Human Services on September 19th. Number 3 is 2023-37, and this is the budget supplemental ordinance. This received a due pass at rules on September 18th. There's one amendment to this proposal. Mr. Boki will discuss that shortly as well. Number 4 is 2023-40, and this is relating to the Pierce Conservation District, amending Exhibit A to a 2016 proposal to recognize the City of Edgewood's incorporation into the district. That received a due pass at CDC on September 18th. Moving to section 9, resolutions, you have 4 items in this section. The first is R 2023-134. This is granting the executive authority to execute an agreement with Pierce Transit relating to law enforcement services. This received a due pass at rules on September 18th. R 2023-135, similar, these first 3 are similar. They're all granting the executive authority to enter into interlocal agreements. 135 is between Pierce County and the city of Fircrest, and this is for the provision of law enforcement chief services. This received a due pass recommendation at rules on September 18th. Number 3 is R 2023-136, and this is an interlocal agreement between Pierce County and the city of Tacoma, and this is for the provision of jail services and facility. This received a due pass at rules on September 18th as well. Number 4 is R 2023-138. This is requesting the executive to work with the cities of Tacoma and Puyallup and South Sound 911 to create a single unified radio system to be governed by a single entity. This will be heard in public safety today, and we'll add that recommendation. And those are your agenda items for tomorrow's regular meeting.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Long before we get to at least one amendment that I'm aware of? Councilmember Morrell has joined us, and so has Councilmember Denson since we began study session, for the record. Okay, I don't see any hands. So let's move to amendments for tomorrow's council meeting agenda. Mr. Boki, about council amendment number 1 related to supplemental budget.
Thank you, Chair Mello, Paul Boki, council staff. Council amendment number 1 makes a change to a proviso within the budget and then also replaces the current Exhibit A to the ordinance. So first of all, on the first page, there will be a proviso change to the Behavioral Health and Therapeutic Courts Fund. And it adds a proviso that you see there, allocating $120,831. Then if you switch over to Exhibit A on the next page, there were a number of changes that occurred here for a number of reasons, and there was some additions. So we just decided to replace Exhibit A in its entirety. The first one, number one, has changed a little bit in that it breaks up the $20,000 for the Human Services Fund to develop a transportation program on the Key Peninsula, between that and giving it some money to the Mustard Seed Project. There's also the addition of the Crystal Mountain, Mount Rainier Viewpoint. They're not going to use all their money that they were appropriated in the initial budget. So the remainder of those funds will go to the White River School District Construction Trades Program. And then you see down below there on number 4, that's the explanation we have that is the reason you had to do the proviso on the first page. There it was $120,000. So you're increasing the amount of the Behavioral Health and Therapeutic Courts Fund by $120,831. The funds will be used for non-hospital-based withdrawal management programs located in Pierce County with at least 5 years of demonstrated experience in providing 24/7 walk-in services to all patients ages 13 and older.
Thank you. Colloquially, some folks call these kinds of services detox services. Term of art used here more professionally is withdrawal management. So just want to make sure we're all tracking. This is to resource what I would expect to be a doubling of the doubling of the bed capacity for withdrawal management, or more commonly known as detox center services, available to Pierce County individuals. And we see the other items in this supplemental budget. Are there questions about the amendment coming forward at tomorrow's meeting? Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Chair. On the behavioral health, I noticed it is an organization with at least 5 years of demonstrated experience. Who would qualify for that? I imagine there's a limited amount of organizations.
I don't think there's an unlimited amount of organizations who do this, have done this in a demonstrated long-term way, or have done it or do it. I'm aware of one organization that does this. Perhaps there are others. The one I'm knowledgeable about is a longtime service provider, Metropolitan Development Council.
MPD.
Perhaps there are others, though. I've not done a complete community scan.
Okay. And on the relinquishment of the derelict vessel program for 20,000, was there just determined there wasn't a need for that? Because
I'm not tracking. I'm sorry. Can you?
okay, so the dollars for the derelict vessel program, line 9, is 20,000, and so that program has been deleted, basically, correct?
Thank you for asking that. I'm tracking now. Councilmember Denson, can you answer that question, please?
I'm sorry, I wasn't. Paying
It's okay. There's a lot going on.
There is a lot.
in amendment number 1, you are proposing we strike through the West Pierce County derelict vessel program and reappropriate those funds to other purposes. The question is, do we not need the derelict vessel program resources anymore?
No, they will not. Well, it's not that we don't need them, but they're not going to be used this year. And I've checked with the department on that. So I would love to see that in the budget for next year, but it's not going to happen this year.
Thank you for that knowledge. And I don't know if it's possible, but to have a report like from the state on their derelict vessel program, because my understanding is that they have a program that comes and gets the derelict vessels because they don't want someone taking and dumping them into lakes and rivers. And if that is something we could maybe expand upon, or have that knowledge to share with our constituents, we wouldn't need to use these dollars. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Let's see, Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. How many how many how many beds do we currently I guess, fund now, I guess privately? And then how many more would this add to 120?
Is
Or do we know?
Ms. Murray, Ms. Merrick is not able to join us at study session, do you know? Or I should say, Mr. Taylor. So I'll answer as I can, and we can certainly have staff follow up. Oh, thank you. Can you bump Ms. Merrick? Is she in the Zoom room?
I'm promoting her as a panelist right now.
Thank you. I'll start and Ms. Merrick can catch us up. I don't know if the county currently funds any withdrawal management or detox services. To my knowledge, we do not. I'm happy to stand corrected if we currently fund them. This appropriation would be able to double the amount of bed capacity. Metropolitan Development Council currently has 16 beds, 16. This would allow them to double to 32. Ms. Merrick, can you correct me? Do you know if the county, through any of its fund sources, resources, withdrawal management services today, to your knowledge?
I'm not aware of any.
Thank you for the question. Councilmember Morel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for an explanation, then just a follow-up question on the My Team Triumph Puget Sound chapter. The challenge there was they could not reinstate their nonprofit status. They're part of a national organization, and they just could not get that certified with the state of Washington. So they will continue to work on that. But in the meantime, the Prairie Ridge Connection, moving the 5,000 down to Prairie Ridge is for their summer youth program. As you know, we allocated funds, and this area did not get any funds out of that allocation. So this just helps offset the cost. And every year they run a youth program for the Prairie Ridge area. And I think the time that I went up there, they had 40 youth that were there. And so this just then adds to their allocation that they have currently under contract. Just gives them another $5,000 more. And then for the funds for the metropolitan district, do they have the capacity to add another 13 beds to their facility without making capital investments?
Thanks for the question, Councilmember Morel. First of all, thank you for moving those dollars so it can stay in your community and for incredibly good purpose in my estimation. Your question about the withdrawal management program or detox center at Metropolitan Development Council, they do have an existing facility. For those that don't know, the facility is actually in walking distance of where we are at here in these council chambers. It's about it's just about 4 or 5 blocks from here. And they have a wing of their existing facility that is being unused right now. It was used for involuntary treatment, as I understand it. Metropolitan Development Council, for various reasons, stopped doing involuntary treatment work. I'm happy to stand corrected, Ms. Merrick. They stopped doing that work for a number of reasons. So there's a whole wing of their building that is available. At another side of their building, they have a 16-bed withdrawal management program, active and full. They're at capacity now. They know this is a big need in the Pierce County community, so they want to repurpose the wing of their building that they've been doing for involuntary treatment for some time, but no longer doing. They want to repurpose it for this because they know it's a very known need. These dollars, as I understand it, would be for capital improvements to that wing that is being unused. So these are for capital dollars that will help them do various capital construction needs to make that part of the wing at standard. and work for this. So as I understand it, this would not be used for operating funds. Ms. Merrick, please correct me how I butchered that response.
Chair, you didn't butcher it. I would just add that I believe some of it is for staffing. And that's why the time frame is before the new biennial budget, is because they have some staff that they would like to hire and they need to get them hired before the end of the year.
Thank you for correcting me. Serves me right to try to answer technical questions without turning to our staff.
Follow-up question. And this fund is coming out of the Behavioral Health and Therapeutic Courts funds. Has this organization made a request off the RFP for funding in the past?
Councilmember Morale, I need to double check this. My understanding is that they did not apply to the last round of funding. There was an issue with their application. Either they missed the deadline or there was an error in the submission. So let me double check though the details on that and I will get back to all of you.
Okay, thank you. And do they have a plan moving forward? Because we are just funding some capital and some operating costs that doesn't put withdrawal management program actually people in those beds based on what I'm hearing. So moving forward, what is their funding source to maintain and open up this withdrawal management program?
So my understanding on this is that they'll look for insurance or other payers for the actual services. They'll also reach out to other municipalities in the county. So I know they're working right now with the city of Tacoma on, I think, their behavioral health tax funding.
Okay, so what you're indicating is they have a path forward. They presented you an operating budget that you're aware of, that we could get a copy of, you know, so that way we're not just giving $120,000 to an organization that doesn't have a plan to move forward with opening up their program. So that's my question is, I don't want to just fund something for capital and operation if there's no path forward for them to continue to fund the operation.
Very good question. Go ahead, Ms. Merrick. We can certainly follow up and have the MDC Executive Director follow up with detailed information, but go ahead, Ms. Merrick.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. They did not provide an operating budget. So if I indicated that, my apologies. What they did tell us is that they were working with the city of Tacoma on getting some funding as well as the payer, so insurance, to help with the operating costs. We can follow up to get additional details, Councilmember Morale.
Okay, I appreciate, obviously, with the withdrawal management program is important to the county, but I just want to make sure that they are thinking beyond this funding, how they're going to maintain operations. Thank you.
Thank you. Very important question. Thank you for asking it. I know they've also been in early conversation. They've reached out to leadership in the city of Puyallup as another example. There's new leadership. I think that's part of what's going on here. There's new leadership at Metropolitan Development Council since the behavioral health our request for proposals went out. Many of us have met. Mr. Schubert used to be at the Seattle YMCA. He's presented before the Health and Human Services Committee before with a different hat on. And I'll also note that withdrawal management services does show up prominently in the county's adopted behavioral health improvement plan, but we have not had any, to my knowledge, we have not had any entities submit to the Behavioral Health and Therapeutic Courts Fund RFP to do withdrawal management, even though it's prominently in our behavioral health improvement plans. Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. I think my Question was already answered. Question was if Tacoma was, some monies were gonna be coming from Tacoma or any other municipality. So sounds like that was answered already. So thank you.
Thank you. In the follow-up, Ms. Merrick, we could also show council the data we saw from, I think it was at least 2022, that if my memory serves, the vast majority of clients for their existing facility, their existing 16-bed withdrawal management facility, something like 70% of the participants, maybe a little more, something like 70% are not from Tacoma. So this very much serves a very broad geographic region. Ms. Merrick, do you have that handy, or are you recalling the same thing?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. I was thinking it was closer to 46% of the clients were from Tacoma.
Thank you. We'll follow up with the chart that you and I both saw, so some members have that information. Councilor Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair, and appreciate that this is on here and have the opportunity to kind of see what they're talking about, kind of converting. And one of the things that comes with, and why we said, 5 years of experience, is there is an art to doing this and doing it well. And it's those services that happen after. And that's one of the things they bring to the table, because you can enter a hospital or an organization in detox, but if you don't have supports, you aren't going to change your behavior. You need long-term commitments and long-term supports. And they have a variety of different programs that they've fine-tuned and worked with those existing 16. So I think taking advantage of the fact that they found something that seems to work and adding to it when there's such a big need is probably will serve us well. So, so appreciate. And if there is another agency out there that's got 5 years of experience in doing this work, we aren't aware of it. So that also is a concern. So outside, yes, thanks. We'll leave that unsaid. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for adding that. Any other questions about amendment number 1?
Wraparound services there.
I'm not seeing any. Ms. Long, are there any other amendments for tomorrow's council meeting?
I'm not aware of any. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to item B here, grant report, Mr. Boki.
Thank you, Chair Mello, Paul Boki, council staff. You have in front of you a grant, 159th Street East. That's in the Spanaway area, going east from State Route 7. That's Pacific Avenue to 3rd Avenue Court East. This is federal money, U.S. Department of Transportation, RCN program, Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods Grant Program. This would put in sidewalks, pave shoulders, add lighting, and extend a turn lane to promote neighborhood connectivity. The project is included in the capital facilities plan and via the 2023-2028 Transportation Improvement Plan is designated as CRP 5926. We've already secured $1.5 million in federal funding for the construction phase from the PSRC, and this request is for an additional $1.5 million. If this is received, then it will reduce the amount of the local match that is expected. Mr. Clint Ritter from our Planning and Public Works Department is here to answer your questions.
Mr. Ritter, thank you for being with us. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Ritter?
Thank you, Chair Mello, members of council. Nothing further to add at this time. I think Mr. Boki covered it well, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And thank you for also including the maps in the submittal to orient us really easily. That's really helpful. Councilor Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. And I know I looked at the maps this weekend, but I'm drawing a blank. Does this go up to Spanaway Lake High School? Am I on the right road?
Thank you for the question. It does not quite make it to the high school, but it's kind of at the, I guess the high school is at the intersection of B Street there. So it is close. And it does make a connection. We actually have numerous other projects kind of in that vicinity. So eventually when those are built, it will improve kind of the network connectivity around Spanaway Lake High.
Okay, yeah, and it's a very narrow 2-lane fog line type road, and high schoolers and middle schoolers and elementary kids are walking on that. So very excited to see this getting additional funds. So hopefully it happens sooner. So thank you for submitting the grant. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any other questions. Glad to see we're continuing to advance this safety improvement work to our transportation network. So thank you very much. This will appear on tomorrow's council meeting agenda for authorization. Item number 3 is the review of the September 27th, 2023 Special District 6 Council Meeting Agenda. Ms. Long.
Yes, thank you. So this is the September 27th special meeting. This is the District 6 evening meeting. There are no items on your consent, no proclamations, ordinances, or resolutions. So we'll jump right to section 10, other business. And there are 3 presentations listed here. The first is the I-5 Nisqually River Delta Crossing. This will be with Ashley Caro, multimodal development manager from Washington State DOT. And the next is the bus rapid transit discussion with Alexandra Mather, government relations administrator, and Ryan Wheaton, executive director of planning and community development from Pierce Transit. And then the last is the ferry long-term financial plan. And this will be with Trevor Treddy. Okay. Airport and Ferry Administrator from Planning Public Works. So those are agenda items for the special meeting on Wednesday evening, beginning at 6:30.
Thank you. Are there questions for Councilmember Hitchin? Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. So plenty of parking, but I-5 can be entertaining sometimes, so just be aware of that. And we specifically chose a little bit later because it helps avoid some of the congestion that happens in that area because of the dismissal at JBLM that happens every day around the same time. And the second part is I know Annette sent out information if you wanted to join us for a meal. So if you could please follow up if you are going to be able, or even if you think you'll be able to. We aren't pre-ordering, but we want to know how much space and kind of prep the organization. So looking forward to it and happy to answer any questions if there's specifics, but the theme is all about transportation because that's how I roll. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for preparing for us, Councilmember Hitchin. Item number 4 is review of committee agendas for the week. Ms. Long.
Thank you. So this afternoon at 1:30, there's a Public Safety Committee meeting. There is one proposal and one discussion item. The proposal is R 2023-138. And this is requesting the executive to work with the cities of Tacoma and Puyallup and South Zone 911 to create a single unified radio system to be governed by a single entity. And this has a September 26th final hearing date. So it's a quick turnaround on this one. Sorry, I had to do a double take. The discussion item is a review of the pre-charge diversions and assisted outpatient treatment. This will be with the prosecuting attorney's office. Tomorrow morning, the 26th, beginning at 9:30 is an Economic and Infrastructure Development Committee meeting. There is one proposal and several presentations or discussion items. The proposal is 2023-41, and this is adopting the 2023 Pierce County Comprehensive Flood Hazard Management Plan. And this has an October 17th final hearing date. Next, you have the Business Accelerator, Navigator, and Innovation Grant Program update with economic development. And then you'll have the Tourism Promotion Area Hotel Commission report, also with economic development. And then finally, you have the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee report, again with economic development. And noon is your regular study session. The one item listed under other business is the proclamations process review. So we'll talk about that tomorrow at 3 p.m. is your regular council meeting. On Wednesday, the 27th, beginning at 10 is a performance audit committee meeting. And there are a few items on that agenda. The first is a report on the Pierce County Road Fund Sustainability Evaluation, and that will be with Burke Consulting. Next is the contract amendment on the evaluation of Pierce County's approach to domestic and gender-based violence services. That will be with Mr. Vetter from our staff. And then finally, you'll have an update on the at-large member recruitment. At 1:30 on the 26th or 27th, excuse me, is a select committee on homelessness. And there is a presentation from the local housing homeless providers, number of providers listed there. And then again, at 6:30 is the special council meeting for District 6 in DuPont. On Thursday, the 28th, beginning at 9:30, you have a special meeting of the Economic and Infrastructure Development Committee. That agenda will be distributed separately. And then at 1:30 on Thursday afternoon, you have a committee of the whole. You'll be receiving a budget overview with Mr. Robinson, and then an overview of the budget ordinances and resolutions from Mr. Boki. You'll be talking about the budget schedule and expectations, and that will be with Chair Mello. And that is the meeting schedule for the remainder of this week.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments about the very busy week ahead? Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. In kind of reviewing just the outline for the cow on Thursday, I was wondering if we were going to have any more kind of overview or information around the survey data and the kind of the methodology about that. And because in learning about it and asking some questions, there was some weighting that was done that I wasn't aware of. And I just, and not in a bad way, but I just want to understand really how they came, because it was less than 1% of our population took it. So how are we finding value in it? And I didn't know if that was in the future or at a study session, but
Mr. Taylor.
we can flag it for later, but I just wanted to.
Thank you. Staff will definitely follow up with you on it. I heard part of the conversation. I understand you're asking about the survey that was conducted in support of the executive's budget and follow-up associated with that.
Yeah, and I didn't know if there was going to be, if they were going to come up and talk about it or share, since like how they are using it to draw conclusions, since it was less than 1% of the population.
Let me circle back with Mr. Boki on that. I'm not certain that there's a formal presentation that's been scheduled yet on it, or unless either of you are aware, but I'll circle back with Mr. Boki on it. If that's something the council would like additional follow-up on, we can certainly make efforts to arrange that.
Okay, let me ponder. And if I'm the only one, then I'll just keep asking questions, but if other people wanted to see it. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions about the week ahead? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Ms. Long. That brings us to item 5, discussion of administrative items. Ms. Murray.
Thank you. For the record, Julie Murray, Chief of Staff. I don't have much this week. I did want to note, though, that staff were given a training on the Warren system as administrators. And so that is going to be a function we're going to use to replace our phone tree. So we'll be doing some testing to make sure that those of us who have the ability to send just messages to our group, the council and the staff, that you're receiving them and that you're receiving them in the format that you want. I think both Councilmember Hitchens and I did a tour last week of the Emergency Operations Center and noted how you were not getting your texts correctly. I was also not getting emails, but I was getting texts. So this is just an opportunity as well to sort of test the system, not just for our use, but just the general system. And you do have options to how you receive that, whether it's by email, by text, by phone call. So you'll be able to also give feedback to us, and we can get that straightened out for you if you're getting it on the wrong phone or just not getting on the phone at all. So it'll just be a good process, and I'll make sure that an email goes out prior to us doing the test, so you kind of get it in both ways. But will clearly identify in the message, this is a test, and poll people for how they received it and if they need to have changes. So that'll be something we'll do this week, and then next week, maybe do another test just to follow up to make sure if we've made changes that those stick. And so the only other item is that we will have coming to rules and operations. We're kind of at the conclusion of the hiring process for the human services positions. So I hope to have that on Monday.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Murray? Not seeing any. Thank you. That brings us to item 6, other business. We have a letter here about the Key Peninsula Land Trust transfer. And Councilmember Denson?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. This was a request of the Key Peninsula Metropolitan Park Association. Part of the land that they use for their big Gateway Park and their 360 trails is owned by the Department of Natural Resources, a large portion of it. There is one component of that they believe would be a good competitive application for a land trust transfer, to have the land transferred from DNR to the Parks Department so that they have long-term control over this property and they can continue the trail system, which is, I don't know if you all know, very popular for mountain biking, horses. There's lots of horses out there, trail runners, walkers, birders, and all of that. So part of the land that they lease would continue to be open for timber operations by DNR, but this particular property would transfer to Key Peninsula Parks, and it's something the community is very interested in. And the board of the Parks Department has asked that we submit a letter in support of their application. So I would ask that we support this.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it forward on behalf of the Metropolitan Park District there on the Key Pen. Questions for this letter being brought forward? It's being recommended that the chair sign on behalf of the body if a majority of the body concurs. If at least a majority of the body concurs. Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Chair. I missed, seeing the letter, if I could see that, because how many acres is this and what's the timber value?
I did ask what the timber value was, and they didn't have that information. They couldn't pull the information from the last time that it was logged. So I don't have that for you. And I don't think the letter mentioned the acreage, but I probably have that. So let me look back in my emails and I can get that to you. And is the letter in the packet, Chair?
It is. It's at the very end of the packet.
Was there a map of where
I
it is?
haven't seen a map, but I can certainly request one.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question on, I guess, maybe the process of it. So it's currently DNR land, so it's state land. And I just don't know if the tribes have been notified that DNR land is usual and custom areas to exercise treaty rights on like it's from gathering to hunting and things like that. And this has happened before where DNR land is open and unclaimed, so they could exercise their treaty rights. Once you transfer the land to a city park or something like that, the tribal treaty rights are no longer can be done there because it's in a different entity. But I would like to maybe take a look at that at a closer thing and make sure that we're not taking some land away that will forever not be able to gather or do anything on their aspects of it. So I just would probably look into that first.
That's an excellent question. I'm happy to ask about that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Denson, are you aware of and this is a park district in your council district that's asking you to pursue this, but are you aware of the deadline for the submittal?
They wanted letters today. Now, I'm not sure when the grant is due. It may be in a few days, and they probably just wanted to compile them to put in for the grant proposal. So let me follow up on that and see if we have a couple days to follow up on some of these questions.
Thank
But
you.
it's probably this week, so I don't know when another opportunity will be for us to vote if we need to do that or.
Thank you for following up, Councilmember Denson. Thank you for the questions, everyone.
Yes.
I don't see any other questions on that. Councilmember Denson.
if I can get this information today, could we entertain this again tomorrow at the study session?
Yes.
Okay, and that would probably be all right if I let them know that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do everything we can to get the questions answered and
Yes.
follow up at tomorrow's study session. Any other business by members? Let's see, Ms. Long, any other business in study session today? Seeing no other business in Monday's study session, we are adjourned.